has a story worth hearing. Everyone has something that makes them, them. Tune in and learn the rich history of the everyday person around you. Only on People We Know and Stories We Don't. Exclusively on KDNRadio every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. People We Know and Stories We Don't is lovingly dedicated by the network in memory of Sarah Chana Bas Mendel Kolber. May her soul have an elevation in heaven. Okay, and today's guest on People We Know and Stories We Don't is none other than Judith Gerzi, a Jewish soul and jazz singer and songwriter. How are you, Judith? Thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Okay, so what we are going to start with is we want to know, who are you?
Oh, good question. Okay. So, as you know, my name is Judith Gerzi. Can you hear me? Yeah?
Yep.
Hello?
Yep.
Okay, great. So, yes, Judith Gerzi. I'm originally from London, England, as you can tell from my speaking voice. Very posh. I grew up in London, Italy, from place to grow up, although we were the frummers of the neighborhood, I would say. And and then in 2004, I moved with my husband and my first child at the time. Oh, she's still my first child. We moved to Israel. And before then, I've come from not singing at all, really, which I'll tell you a bit about later, but not singing at all to suddenly being thrown in it and becoming a professional soul singer, like kind of overnight. It was thrown in the deep end, as you'd say. So like I said, I come from London, England. I'm one of five children. I am the fourth. My parents are really interesting, actually. My dad is from Libya, and he moved when he was 17 to London, and actually slowly brought the rest of our family, well, rest of his family, to London as well. And that's where he met my mum, who's from England. So lots of different stories within those to tell, depending on which you'd want to hear.
So how did you get into soul and jazz?
Such a good question. Okay, so I grew up from my parents, very chashuva people, always had an open house. I grew up in a much more I don't know, everyone's call it different to English people. To me, it's like a modern Orthodox, so like a from household, but we listen to non-Jewish music as well. I knew all the music, and I always loved that were uplifting and meant something. But for me, there was no music in England. There was no door for me. I didn't know there was such a thing as women singers. But I always just it's called soul music for a reason. It just hits your heart. It's just the music that just spoke to me. Actually, going forward a bit, when I started singing, I asked myself. I remember when I started singing, and I didn't have my own music at the time. Now, Baruch Hashem, I do write my own music. But when I first started, I was singing covers that were just inspirational, but not. I was very careful with what I would sing, but it was always songs that were just made up by other people. And I was like, why is Hashem giving me the love for this style of music if it's not the typical Jewish music? How's this going to work? And then one concert I did, it was so amazing. It was literally like God just putting the light bulb moment. And I was singing in a cave, interestingly enough, in Israel. I was like the surprise guest for these amazing women from around America. They were all business women, and they didn't know anything about me. And I'm standing there with a scarf, pregnant with one of my babies at the time. And, I just looked like the typical from woman. And I could see their eyes rolling the minute they looked at me. And then I started talking about Achter, about, how we're all different, but, we all are trying to find the way together. And I started to sing soul music that they could relate to. And by the end of it, I'm telling you, we were dancing together and it was so amazing. And that's when I realized this is why this is the style I love, because it's a language that speaks to everybody. Whether you're from birth or a Baal Shiva, whatever it is, it's soulful, and it hits you, it hits the heart. So, that's why.
So you are titled as the Jewish Adele. Can you tell us about
Oh.
that?
Okay, so that's a lovely compliment. Um, yeah, so it's that style of singing. I guess it's funny because I remember one time, again, one of my first times of singing, I sang with this beautiful Ethiopian woman who was also called Yehudit, right? My Hebrew name's Yehudit. And we got up on stage together and sang a song. And it was very funny because people were watching us sing and they got very confused because when I'm talking, I sound like an English person, but when I sing, I sound very like gospely almost, like very soulful, jazzy. And they were looking at me and looking at her, and they're like, "Wait, what's going on?" They thought that she sounded more English than I did. I sound very kind of that kind of style, very soulful, very jazzy. So I guess that's where it came, and I hope to try and within the right with the right words, it's a big compliment.
So how did you get into starting to sing?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
How did you get into starting to actually sing?
Okay, good story. So we were living in England. Like I said, I was actually a teacher in Beis Yaakov for a nursery. I've always loved children, and I just had this deep wanting to sing. No one, I mean, even my own family, we all are singers. We all used to sing Zmirot together at the table, and we had this passion. But even my own family didn't know how much I loved it. I think I didn't even know because I kind of, pushed it down because it was so raw and painful for me that I wanted to do it, and I didn't think it was out there. And then I remember we came to Israel, married with my baby. We came to Israel for Pesach and something changed. And my husband's father is actually Israeli. He always wanted to move to Israel, my husband, and I always wanted to want to. All my older siblings lived here, and I kind of felt guilty for not wanting to. And literally, I remember driving home from work with my baby in the car, and I just had this humongous void. And it was two things. I mean, I was going through also some personal issues trying to become pregnant, and I just felt this desperate need to move to Israel. And I turned to my husband and said, "We need to move to Israel." And he was like, "What?" The guy who always wanted to move to Israel, he had this life in England where he was trained. His clients were these great Sadiq studying Gemara with them, and he had to, give that up. And Baruch Hashem, we do not turn back. But my cousin, who's Rebbitzin there, said, "Judith, when you make Aliyah, Hashem is going to give you such bracha because you're doing something difficult." And he said, "Your dreams are going to come true." And the first thing that came in my head was, well, what are my dreams? My dreams are to have more children, please God, and to sing. And within that first year, I came to Israel. My husband, you should just know, I should point out a big part that he plays like 15 instruments. He is a musician that, he's astonishing. Yeah, I know. He's an amazing musician. So music is always around, and it's very difficult if there's nowhere to let it out. And he pushed me when we came to Israel. And within that first year, I became pregnant with my second kid. Baruch Hashem, now I have 6 children, thank God. And that first year, I went into this. My husband mentioned to somebody that I sang, and I did this tiny little thing in a shul. I sang all Hebrew songs, and my Hebrew is still, unfortunately, pathetic. I've been here for almost 16 years, but I was singing, singing from my heart, singing my heart out. And I remember at the end of it, this woman came up to me in floods of tears, and I'm thinking, oh no, was it that bad? And she said, and she was talking all in Hebrew. So my son, she said to me, that this woman was saying, I've been going through a lot of tsaras, I've been going through a lot of heartache. And when you sang, I felt you meant every word. And it's for the first time in many, many years that I've davened and opened up to God. And that was like my, wow, okay, it's supposed to be. I'm supposed to do this. And then after that, my husband kept pushing me, and I actually got a bracha from the Biala Rebbe, he's always been a humongous backing for us. He says, women are the ones who are going to bring you in. He's Biala Rebbe, Rav Ben Zion Rabinowitz, and he's always pushed me, do it. This is what you're supposed to do. Bring achta and bring love and show the light of Hashem without sounding too corny. And so I was in this wanna be a star competition, was absolutely petrified because again, I still can't believe I get up and sing in front of however many people, because in my mind I'm still this very shy person. But from that competition, whoever was picked to win, we got to sing in front of a big audience. And Baruch Hashem, I was one of the winners. And they did an article on me. And from that, they kind of assumed I was this professional singer. So I went from being this absolutely petrified woman who had no idea, I had no musical background, to being assumed I was professional. So I had to act professional and sing professionally. And it was quite overwhelming, to be honest, at the beginning for a long time. And I kind of pushed it away for a long time because it was really very, very scary. And actually, I can tell you the story that really pushed me into it, if you have a minute to hear it. Okay, so the story goes like this. When I was expecting, just after delivering my third baby, my Leah, who's now 12, 3 days later, I actually had something called a pulmonary embolism, which is a blood clot in the lung. And I'm one of those people who thinks nothing bad will ever happen. It's fine. It's a backache. Okay, I can't breathe. It's fine. Thank God. My husband, wished me over to the hospital, and it was really, I had a close to, near-death experience, I would say. And I remember this moment, and I was sitting by myself. My husband was with my newborn baby, and my emotions, you can't even imagine, were all over the place. And I just suddenly had the only way I can explain was a proper all alone. Actually, there was an old man lying kind of quite close to me, and I had this vision of me sitting, and there was this huge stage, and it was very bizarre to me. There were thousands of people, and I was singing, and it wasn't about the singing, it was about the audience, their reaction to it. Like, it was kind of like we'd become like the achtet in the room. The feeling of like understanding and closeness was so intense. And I just remember saying in my mind, God, first I was worrying about my family, oh Hashem, please don't take me away from my family. I've got this newborn baby and two other children, and oh, my husband's going to have to find someone else. Oh, she's going to be so much better than me. And all those thoughts go through my head. And then it just hit me that this vision I had, it hadn't happened. And I just said, please, I know that this is something I'm supposed to do. Please don't take me away. I need to do this. This is one of my tough kids. It's something I'm supposed to do in life. And that has always been something like in my mind to put and remind me, not about me, and don't be afraid when I'm on stage and they're not really looking at you. It's about what you're giving. It's nothing to do with us. If God gives you a talent, it's really nothing to do with you. It's something he's given you to use. It's a tool. And if you don't use it in 120 years, let's say 180 because of inflation, 180 years, please God, you want to say that I used those tools that you gave me, as opposed to, well, I was scared and given you. So that has been a big push in my life. So,
wow. That's an incredible story.
Yeah, intense.
Tell us about the album Awakening.
Okay. So the name Awakening, it was literally like my neshama had awakened, because I was finally able to do it. So like I said, I had no musical knowledge really, other than my husband playing all these instruments. I play guitar really badly, but I never studied anything. So for, I learned all these songs, but when I would go to people, they'd end up sounding more country, and country music is beautiful. It's not my style. And I almost gave up. I really almost gave up. And I remember one Motzei Shabbos, I was actually crying one Saturday night. I was really in tears. And I said to my husband, okay, this is it. I'm going to post a question, And I'm going to ask my friends on social media, does anybody know of a music producer that can help me? Because I've been to a few and it had just not worked out. And I said, if it's not meant to be right now, I had more children at the time, then it's not my time. I also work. I'm also a Rebbitzin of a Kehillah, thank God. So I'm a busy lady. Maybe it's not meant to be for now. So he said, yeah, go for it. Post it, see what happens. And that night, someone posted me someone's name. And this person cannot my style so much that after the second song, I think the third song was the craziest thing. I'd already written down, but suddenly a new song came into my head as I was driving over to the place. And I say to him, so I've got a song, you have to, and he says, 1 minute, there's something I want you to hear. Starts playing something on the piano. I'm not joking. It was the exact same tune. It was bizarre. Within, I think it was 3, he'd written like one of my songs was on the album. It was one of my favorite songs. And like there, one of the first ones I wrote, I think it's, you need to be inspired. And I think the first song that I really loved was called Hushabai, which I wrote about my boy who is now 14, little maniac, but when I was having a lot of trouble getting pregnant, there was a lot of pain involved, like a lot of emotional pain. And I remember every Thursday night I would cook till 3:00 in the morning because I'm one of those crazy people, and I would listen to Shlomo Kalbach, and I'd start crying my eyes out, and I'd realize I have so much. He tells you these like tremendously horrific stories, and I would get so inspired. And I just remember having like a light bulb, another one of those light bulb moments of realizing, okay, I'm being put here for a reason. At the time, I wasn't the Rebbitzin of a shul, but my husband still had lots of people coming to him, and we still had a very. And I said, okay, so I've been put into this position so that I've been there and I can hold their hand through it. And actually, pretty soon after that, I think within 2 months, I became pregnant with my child. So it's, like we go through these things for a reason. And I think that was really helpful for me. So that song was about him. And what's funny is I'm sitting there writing this song, Hushabai, don't you cry, all the angels will sing tonight, dry your eyes, I'll comfort you. And as I'm writing it, I can hear him and my eldest daughter fighting in the background. And I suddenly go, bed! So it's like this like clash of, oh, my darling, and then reality hits. But those songs are always there, and actually it's lovely because my 14-year-old, I don't play my music so much in the house, but on the times where they sing it, and Dafka, my little baby, my 6-year-old and my 2-year-old is now starting to sing it. It's so cute. They run around singing it, and I see my 14-year-old gets very like, his eyes start to water when he hears that song, which is really sweet.
Wow, that's so amazing. So before we discuss some of the individual tracks on the album, who is someone that you look up to in the music industry?
Oh, good question. So you'll be surprised because a lot of people ask me that. A lot of people think I'm going to say all the people that are like all the big singers, like the big jazz singers and stuff. But really, sadly, I'm pretty musically deprived, to be pretty honest with you. I don't listen to that much music. I write my own music. I'm actually writing my second album now, Baruch Hashem. But my kids listen to the typical cute Jewish music, which I love. It's fun. But I can't say there's anyone particularly that has hit me. I mean, as a singer, but in regards to what has inspired me, I would say, Reb Shlomo Carlebach, when he talks and sings, that's something that I do a lot. It's kind of like you give over a part of yourself when you're singing. It's very vulnerable. And that's very much what he does. I tell a lot of my own personal stories, and amazingly, I've been through a lot of them in my lifetime. And it gives a lot of help for other people. And I bring out specific things whenever I feel it's appropriate. I don't tell everyone everything all the time, but when it calls for it, I'll tell them this is something I went through, or a friend of mine this, and it really inspires. So I just think all of these people who are coming out now with their music, and I remember actually I know it's a little different now, but I remember when first Matisyahu came out with his style of music. It's not really my style, but I was like, wow, this is really different. And how is the Jewish community going to feel about this? Especially me, as a Rebbetzin living in Ramat Beit Shemesh in Israel, I've always been very careful the type of music I write. I mean, I want to be. It's not like it's difficult. I'm writing songs that are meaningful to me. But when I heard the style and the people that were reacting to it, it was really interesting. And I feel like that opened up a lot. I actually know Nissan Black's family, his daughter's in my daughter's school, and some of his music as well. I was like, his story is crazy. And, like, I just feel all of these people who are trying to keep the Torah away. There's so many. I mean, another one of our neighbors is, gone from my head now. I knew that would happen. I have word retrieval. It's such a nightmare, especially as a singer. I can get on stage and just forget what I'm singing. What's wrong with me? It's gone from my head. Sorry. But there's a lot of us in Ramat Beit Shemesh, a lot of singers, and I just find them all inspiring. There's not a particular person that I would say that's the one I want to be like, which is nice because I take a bit of everything, and kind of make it my own. But I just respect everybody who brings whatever their work is and just makes it something kadosh. I think that's a beautiful thing.
Is there anyone that you've collaborated with for a concert or anything like that?
So there's quite a few people that I will be collaborating with. I've kind of been on halt for the past couple of years. I've just started coming back out again with singing, after I had my last baby. I'm about to open my second wig salon. So as you see, with this kehillah and 2 businesses, etc., I'm crazy busy. So I will be collaborating with a few people. I'm just trying to think of specific names right now. I mean, sorry, my kids are shouting in the background. I would say watch this space because there's quite a few people that we will be, but nothing is written in writing. There's a couple of women who want to write a song together with me now. So we'll see how it goes and I'll let you know.
Okay. So now that the Kol Isha world is starting to explode open in the last few years, especially lately with the whole COVID, a lot of female artists are doing Zoom concerts and stuff. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I tell you, I've been very busy with all these Zoom concerts. It's amazing, and it's been really like pretty wonderful thing to suddenly get in contact with all these people from all over the world and just be able to sing together with them. So I've actually been doing a lot of those. I think I'm going to sound very American, but I think it's awesome. I really think it's amazing. I think it's awesome. I worked with Dobby Bound the other day, and I see her following are these little teenage girls that's so adorable and so amazing. Miriam, I can't remember her. Is it Miriam Sandler? Trying to remember her second name. She and I want to do something soon. I think it's a fantastic way to get across, and especially right now we're all going through such a hard time. I still have my 6 kids home. It's been over 3 months already. So yeah, it's a real refuah for a lot of us. Me as well. I don't know if you can see, well, the radio is not going to be able to see it, but on Zoom you can see behind me, this is our shul. And I never sing in my shul, there are always men in there, but it's been empty for almost 3 months. So I've been going in there with this amazing acoustics and just pouring my heart out. And when the women join me on Zoom, it's something really, really special. I think we should just keep going over, please God.
Tell us about the businesses that you run.
Sorry, did you say to tell you about the businesses?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's really funny, actually. When I first opened my business, I wasn't really looking for work at the time. I think I was a caterer at the time. I'm one of those people. All the arts. Don't ask me about maths or science. Well, I'm really interested in science actually, but don't ask me about maths. Forget that. But the arts. I mean, I studied art in university, so those kind of things I love. Now, I was in England visiting, and someone picked up a wig for me in a Gemach. just, just to see if I liked it. She saw it and it was curly. I'm curls. And she was like, I saw this and thought of you, and it wasn't for me, and I want to take it back, and they don't do returns. It's a it was nothing wigs. Then I started posting if anyone has wigs they want to give me. I had a big bag of synthetic wigs, a big bag of real human hair ones, and it started like that. And then one day, a friend of mine who teaches in seminaries like washing and cutting and stuff like that, she said, "Why don't you give them to me and we'll wash them and set them for you?" I said, "But I've got nowhere to put them. They'll just go back in the bags." And it suddenly occurred to me that I had a room actually within the shul, interestingly enough, a spare room that wasn't being used for anything. And I asked my husband, "Can I, set up a little salon in there?" And within a week, literally, I'm one of those people that when I have an idea, I have to do it now. And it was opened up, and it just took off like that as a gemach. And then I started getting people saying, "Well, will you sell my secondhand pieces?" And then I did that. And then I started, playing around, cutting and dyeing them. And then I had actual warehouses message me, the places that all the big salons get these wigs from, saying, "Would you be interested?" And it took me a long time to find good quality wigs that were, kosher wigs and beautiful wigs. And now I've actually, as of a couple of weeks ago, my gemach is now in a different location. I'm opening up the gemach separately because it wasn't a big enough space to have the gemach and the secondhand and the brand new pieces all together. And I wanted everyone to feel beautiful when they came. I didn't want them to feel like, ugh, it's gemach, so it's in a bag, or in a drawer. So I'm opening up a lovely gemach up the road, and I'm literally, please God, tomorrow reopening my salon under a new name. It was called Got You Covered. Now it's Judith Gerzi Custom and Consignment Wigs. I have my own wig line now, and I'm opening a big salon upstairs. It's a slightly different location, where it's a lot more beautiful and really nice pieces, and just so people feel really pampered, women especially. I'm actually not one of those typical women who I don't really get my nails done. I'm not such a pretty kind of girl, but I really helpful, especially when I get these Brian and that's just so perfect for them, and they maybe they couldn't afford it in the beginning. I still keep my prices very good and very affordable, and it's a beautiful thing when you see someone come in thinking, "Oh, I'm not going to be able to get anything," and then they come out feeling so different and so lovely. So I'm hoping to bring in a makeup artist as well and a nail technician to bring it all together and have like a real, I guess, a spa, you could call it.
Wow.
So yeah.
What else do you do on the side?
Well, I mean, I have studied. Interestingly enough, I actually am very into psychology and therapy. I've studied NLP, if you know what NLP is, neuro linguistic programming, energy work. I've learned a few other forms of therapy as well, which have actually really changed my personal life. It's funny because I never had therapy. I didn't think I needed therapy. I went and studied, and the last therapy that I'm studying is with my husband, because we send people in our kahila to this one lady, and we figured we really need to know and understand what she's doing in order to feel really confident to send them. And I'm sitting there thinking, I don't really need therapy. I'm okay. I was wrong. Apparently, I was a mess. So it was an interesting thing, but it really changed my life. It really did, and I use that a lot as a Rebbitzin. And in regards to the energy work, that's something that's been in my family for many years. Like I said, my father's, he would learn with Eliyahu Hanavi, the prophet, on his rooftop. My dad, who's a very down-to-earth person who doesn't normally believe these things, believes that. So when I started doing energy work, it was actually very interesting. My son, the one I was talking about, my second child, he was unfortunately, Baruch Hashem, he's fine now, but when he was, I believe, 3 or 4, he got very, very sick. He had something called Stevens-Johnson syndrome, which is like 1 in a million people get. Like most of the doctors hadn't heard of it. And it's it looks like they've been in a fire. It's like from inside out. It was really horrific, and he was very, very sick. And when we came back from the hospital and he was getting better, I remember it's a pretty bizarre story actually what happened, and it's a bit far fetched if you'll work with me. But I had these three consecutive dreams. It was very bizarre actually. A friend of mine about it, I was like, oh, I'm not sure. And in my dream, she said to me, send me your energy. And I was like, okay. I didn't really feel it. And I actually kind of woke up in a state of like, I can't explain it to you. It was, I couldn't move. I couldn't talk. I was awake, but I was in this very bizarre place. And it happened for three times. I had these dreams. And after these dreams, found if someone was going through something, and this I was stroking his back one night, putting him to bed, and I suddenly felt this like almost buzzing, and kind of like this. It's really hard to explain it. I just felt something, and ever since then I've been able to do things. And there's a Makubal who lives in Israel, and we go to him, and he said I hadn't said anything to him yet, and he says, "You've been starting to do energy work. It's time you should be doing that. Good, I'm glad. This is something in you." I was like, what? And then I actually went and did something for a relative of mine who was having a very difficult pregnancy at the time. And I thought it was a bit Bubameister, to be honest. I thought, it's psychological. I'm going to go there. I just felt like I knew what to do. Like I washed my hands. I don't actually touch anybody. It's kind of like I feel on an area. And after I left her, she said like the next day she was running around and she'd been sick, like she mum couldn't move for weeks, and she was fine. And I really thought, okay, she needed someone there. It was psychological. And we both happened to go back to this Rav about this Makubal a few weeks later, and he says to her, "Oh, someone worked on you. She took 90-something% away." And then I went, and he says, "Ah, you worked on someone. You took 90." I was like, "Whoa, okay." And I do see. I only do it when it's an emergency, really, just because I'm very busy. I've actually written a song quite recently. I haven't put it out yet. It's going to be on my second album, actually, about a very difficult experience that I had, but I really felt it could help people. Actually, I went when there was the little boy in Israel who was very, very sick. He was a 2-year-old. In fact, I think he was about to turn 3, and he was in an induced coma. And I honestly didn't think I'd be able to cope with it. It just, as a mother myself, and I just didn't know how I would deal with it. But it was amazing. When I went there, I went up to this boy, and I put my hands near him, and I literally could hear him laughing. It was the craziest thing. I could hear him laughing in my mind. And I turned to the mom and I said, "What kind of character does this kid have?" And she said, "Oh, he is always laughing. He's always laughing." And unfortunately, this beautiful neshama, he actually passed away. But I went to him twice, and both times I went to him, he was laughing. It was an amazing thing. And I'm telling you, I feel the reason I went there was so that I could write this song to show people that everyone that was left behind, yes, we really, they did suffer 100%, but this child, he was not suffering. And the song is, he was already flying. It was an amazing thing that I really felt like I had like a little inside feel of what he was experiencing. And it was incredibly difficult, and I haven't put the song out yet. I'm still waiting to hear for sure if I can from the family. It's been quite a long time now, so I'm hoping that it will be okay, because it really will give a lot of people chizuk. I think a lot of, it will help them through difficult times. But yeah, it was a phenomenal experience, like a crushing experience, but it's a real gift. I feel
Wow.
like I'm really blessed for that.
Tell us about the song Firefly.
Okay, I've got to hear it in my head first. Firefly. Catches. Oh yes, okay. Firefly. So whenever I sing this in a show, I ask people, "Have you ever seen a firefly?" Because I haven't, but I know that fireflies are these tiny little things, right? And we often think of ourselves like we're kind of insignificant. What am I in this huge world? I'm this tiny little thing. But you look at these fireflies, and they're these tiny little flies, but they light up the sky. They're incredible. And when they come together, even more so, you have this immense picture of beauty, of lighting up everything. And I always tell people that's us. No one's here by mistake. We're here for a reason. Anything in the lyrics, wondering why things go wrong. You thought you were a good person. So why do bad things happen to people like you? Maybe there are things you never knew. We live and we'll learn. Going through bad things, we'll earn the wings to grow, the wings to fly. You'll be like that firefly. So it's like we learn through our lives we go through difficult things in life, just like that story about that, very difficult things that we go through, or my near-death experience even, but is there for a reason. It teaches us so much about ourselves, and we develop and we grow through them. So that's what the song's about. Don't think you're insignificant. Realize that you're huge, and you are, even if you're a identical twin, you are nothing alike. You are so important in this world, And I'm speaking for personal experience. Like, I've always been that person who thought, I'm not, what am I? And then I realized that's gaiva, to give to throw away something that God's given you, and to not realize that you have a huge potential to move and shake, whether or not you have children, whether or not you're married. You are so important, no matter what your life circumstances are. So yeah, that's Firefly.
Wow. And it's funny you say that, because I'm actually an identical twin.
Are you? There you go. It's my energy work, knowing.
And it's true.
That's
that
so funny.
While we have a lot of similarities, there are certain things that we are just completely different. We're studying.
Absolutely.
We went for 2 completely different degrees.
Really? That's so funny.
Like, even growing up, I was always Elmo fan, and he was always Cookie Monster.
That's brilliant.
So it's
wow.
It's interesting that you mentioned that, because it's true. Every person is different.
Absolutely. You are so different from your brother. Yeah, like, I don't think any of us will ever know how different. Like, even as siblings, I'm one of 5, like I said. We're all like ridiculously different. I don't know if we do that on purpose, but like, when people meet us, actually, my last birth? No, with my 5th kid, my sister actually came with me to the birth. And this woman, oh dear, sorry, my son's in the background. The doula, the nurse, is saying to me, "How do you know each other?" And we're sisters. She says, "You look alike. It's interesting, but you don't dress the same. What's that about?" And I'm like, "Really? While I'm in labor, we can discuss this anytime. Just not right now." It was so funny. I was like, "This is really not where I want to be right now, to be discussing, where we're at." It was hysterical, but yeah, I hear you. That's funny.
What can you tell us about the song Together?
Okay, I'm a huge believer in achdut, in how do you even, what's the word for achdut? Is like respecting each other and being together in my shul. Okay, so like I said, my husband's the Rav of Al Kahila. I felt we had succeeded when I remember years ago. It's actually underneath my garden, and I was looking over the balcony, looking down at the people, and I could see one guy with, there are a lot of strimals, a lot of black hats, and then I saw a guy with like a colorful kippah, then a guy with a mohawk and no kippah, and a guy with this, but they were all talking to each other. And so pretty much that's what my song is about. It's about just respecting each other and realizing that we don't have to be the same. You don't have, we're all trying to find our way, and they sometimes might clash with each other. But if we just respect the other person, like, so many people I know are not the same as me. And I remember actually one of my friends saying to me, she's a lot more modern. She's very, she's a real, a real feminist. I'm not anti-feminist, you should know, but like, she's a real feminist, and and I'm like a very typical old school, like, I'm very happy in my role as a wife, and I believe it's, for me it's perfect, as to do X, Y, and Z, blah blah blah, but I don't believe everyone should be the same. And I remember her saying to me, "Judith, how come we're friends? We're so different." And I said to her, I didn't realize we had to be the same to respect each other and appreciate each other. And she was like, oh, yeah, okay, that's a good point. Fair enough. I think that's really what it's about. We lost the second temple, the second Beit Hamikdash, because we didn't have that respect for each other. We just had sinat chinam for no reason. It was ridiculous. And you see it all the time now. And, when things like this happen, when, we're in this insane situation now where there's this crazy pandemic, when years ago, those three beautiful boys, those teenage boys in Israel went missing, I'll never forget. We were all baking challahs in the streets together. I mean, we weren't baking them in the streets, but it was hot enough. We could have baked them, to be honest. But we were making making the dough together and saying brachot together, and every color, shape, and size came out. And they asked all the Rebbitzins of the area to speak, and that's what I was talking about. I said, look around you. Look at us, we're different, and that's beautiful, and it's good, and let's just respect each other, and let's really just celebrate our differences instead of just trying to trample each other. It's horrific. Let's just celebrate each other. So that's really what that song is about. Together, clap your hands together, 1 2 3. No matter where you'll be, look around. We dress differently, but we're the same. So that's what it's about, and it's a really upbeat, fun dance song. In fact, whenever I sing that's one of the last songs I sing, and I have actually been hurdled off, like people have trampled me on, they're still dancing on the stage. So I'm quite short, so when they come up on stage, actually last year I did this, I've done a few years, this kedma. It's this, what kedma is? It's all the seminaries come together. You have to, you couldn't be there, but picture 1,500 screaming teenage girls. It's kind of scary. I'm singing my song and I suddenly sing, it's a real song, and I started singing, and the shrieks and the dancing, and they just come running on the stage, dancing and singing, and they're like, yeah, woohoo! And it's amazing. It's a great feeling, when they sit and listen to the lyrics there. It's really it's a great thing. I really appreciate that song.
Yeah, you were talking about how the summer of the three boys. I was actually in Eretz Yisrael that summer.
Really?
And I was there for Birthright, and I extended through the entire summer, and so being there in that time of war was crazy, but it was really wonderful to, as you were talking about, to see everyone coming together. I remember at random bus stops, people would just start dancing and to show the terrorists that they're not gonna ruin our simcha.
100%. I actually wrote a song about that as well, called Behind the Lies. It's a pretty intense song. I don't sing it often because I usually have kids around in shows and stuff, but it's a very intense song. But I made a video that I actually want to finish. It's not really finished, but the video is the mother, one of the mothers, speaking at the beginning and then showing all of the simcha. It starts off very, very heavy, but it ends up saying, we'll win this fight, stand together tonight, rise, and we'll just be, again, about achdut, just be together as one. We'll do this, we'll get through it together. That was a very intense time. It really was.
Yeah, that was so scary and also incredible at the same time. It was such a ridiculous summer, but the whole nation across the globe just really came together because of that.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. What was even more, I don't even know what the word to describe this feeling would be, but I don't know if you're aware that the parents pretty much knew that it was not good. It didn't look good, and they were almost positive that the boys had died, but they didn't say anything to the media. They didn't, the media did not let anyone know this, and I think they were, the fact that there was this achdut and this care, literally from all over the world, from every side. You could see people in wherever they were putting up banners, we're here for you, we're thinking of you, it was unbelievable, this intensity and this achdut. We just have to keep it. We have to be like that all the time. It's just that's all that's missing. We have to make sure we don't just do that when terrible things happen to us. I think that's really the secret. All the little things go away.
What else do you do?
Is that not enough?
It seems like you do so many different things. You're so tell us about what it's like being a Rebbitzin.
It's amazing. Okay, so it was really funny when we started because we always had a dream to do it, and we actually we moved. I was when we made Aliyah, I was 24. My husband was 25. This is going to age me now, but it's fine. And within 3.5 years, we moved from Beit Shemesh to Ramat Beit Shemesh, where we wanted to open this shul. We honestly thought it would be this little shtivel kind of place, maybe in our house. I had one of those kind of energy work feelings of the house. I knew that the house we're living in was supposed to be the house, and I knew that we could open the basement, and we did. It's really pretty big, thank God. And yeah, so not we weren't actually 30 yet by the time we opened it, and it was quite funny because I remember turning to my husband when the actual shul opened up, because it started off in our house in our lounge, and then we started getting more and more squished. So over however long, we spoke to people. It's called the Pilzner, Beit David Pilzno, which is after my husband's Rebbe, who told us to open the shul under his name. And so I turned to my husband. I said, this is an amazing kahila, but we're the youngest. Other than their children, we're the youngest members. And within, I think a few weeks later, some younger couples started coming in, and now it's, we're now old compared to them. Now we're the old ones, so we've got much older than us, much younger than us, and it's a beautiful. Thank God, it's a really special kahila. My husband bases it on something called the Yesodot, so the four principles that he believes. And his Rebbe really was very much this, and so is my husband. It's living financially, physically, emotionally, and spiritually healthily. So it's like an all-encompassing, just being healthy on all those levels, and that's to be a real Jew, even not even a Jew, a healthy human being should try very much to have all of those things. So I'm very busy as a Rebbitzin, having people call me, especially right now. So I'm just trying to keep in touch more with the people who are alone. We do have some single people, so I'm trying to keep in contact with them because it's very difficult, especially for them. But yeah, it's an amazing thing to be. I've had to really learn to come out of my shell and not be so English, to try and not be embarrassed by things and be open. And I've taken on a lot of my husband's bubbly, brilliant persona over the years. I mean, when I met him, I was very quiet. We actually met very young, so I guess that's why God really he pushed me in early so that I get to this place. I met him when I was only 17, and we're both from. So it was a long time till we could get two from kids, and we got married quite a bit later. But yeah, it was, I guess, God preparing me for what I was going to, going to become, and it's an absolute dream. It really is. I love it. I love it.
So wrapping up, you said that you're working on a second album. What can you tell us about that?
Okay, well, I can tell you it's exciting. Truth is, the first album, it's it's so old now to me because I wrote it so many years ago. But it took me a long time. When I was writing it, I had a baby in between, and I actually was very sick as well in between. So this is all new material, stuff that I've written recently and stuff that's old. But the first album is pretty much live. My vocally, it's live. The backing took years to do, but I went into the recording studio and did the whole thing within 6 hours. So whenever I hear it, I'm like, I cringe a bit because it's not perfect. Because it was a live thing. It was an unbelievable thing that happened. This guy, basically, who has this amazing recording studio, said he had this dream to bring women to do shows, and he wanted me to be in charge. And but he didn't have any to pay, but I could sell my CDs. And I said, but I don't have a CD. He says, so come, do it. I'll give you 5 free hours, which was unbelievable, by the way. So I paid for an extra hour, or maybe he gave me the extra hour, and I did the whole thing. So this album now, I really want to do it without, if it's live, I want people to know it's live at least, I guess. I didn't even tell people it was live. But the new album is, I guess, look, I've changed so much since that first album. I've experienced so much. I've gone through a lot of new experiences, and there's a lot of that on there. There's a lot of new stories. And also, I would say there's a lot of pieces that are more my style. The first album, it's my style, but I love doing. I don't know if you know what trills are, like very like soul. It's like a lot of ups and downs with the vocals, and like really just having fun with the vocals. And I'm hoping to have a lot of that, like a lot more fun with my voice in the second album. But I think it's more a lot of, yeah, just a lot of really new stories and new material to tell.
Awesome. I'm sure a lot of people are definitely looking forward to that.
I hope so.
How can people find your music?
Okay, so I'm a grandma when it comes to this stuff. So someone actually did it for me. It's on, you can find the songs for my first album on YouTube. They're just with the I'm on my, you can look at my website, judithgerzi.com. It's Gerzi for the Americans, Zi for the English. But I'm pretty much, you can find me. I'm on, I've now, oh, hello. I've just joined Instagram, but sorry, this is one of mine. Hi, you're not supposed to be down here. Say hi. I've just joined Instagram, so I'm putting a lot there. It's Rebbitzin Judith Gerzi, and it's of course it's Kol Isha, so for women only, please. So yes, you can find me. Look out for me. Say hi. If you sing yourself, let me know. I've started getting in touch, especially like you were asking about, since this whole thing, I've been listening to more people and falling in love with these voices, and we want to work together. So yeah, the Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook as well. I'm on now, Judith Gerzi. So I think it's, yes, my music is Judith Gerzi, and then my wigs are, I think it's still under Got You Covered. I have to change it. But if you look up Judith, actually my maiden name is Megnaji, so good luck trying to spell that one. But try Judith Gerzi. You should find me.
Anything you'd like to add?
Just it was an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much. It really was lovely, and it's just have hatzlacha, and everyone should hopefully be healthy in these crazy times, and just find the thing that that will save you. Find the thing, and use this time, even if you're not using this time like every minute, because a lot of people call me where they're stressed. Oh, I haven't used this time of quarantine the way I wanted to. I've been sitting and I've been thinking, or I've been doing nothing. I've been sleeping. I say, you know what, that's fine. Just be okay with it. Work and just write some things. Breathe through it, and just try and find your place in life. One second, I'm just finishing. But yes, it was a real pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Judith, for joining us on the show. And it's an incredible story you just told us. Hatzlacha with your music. Looking forward to get to sing the new album, and best of luck with everything with the shul.
Thank you.